All right, howdy everybody. Welcome back to Top Comics Pressing. In this video, we have a genuinely incredible copy of The Incredible Hulk number 181. I know I've said that before, but in this case, I think it's genuinely true because this is a Mark Jewelers insert copy of the Hulk 181. And for those of you that don't know, the Mark Jewelers are a very rare insert that was included in a number of comic books, really from the early 70s through the early 1990s, and because of their rarity, they're highly sought after by collectors. And so this is a very prized, very sought after comic book to begin with, being in the Incredible Hulk number 181, and having the Mark Jewelers insert in there is a very big boost. Now, this particular copy I think is going to need a little bit of TLC, but not much. It's actually in very great shape to begin with, and so I just want to take you through some of the defects that I'm seeing here. So the first one here is that there is a corner crunch where somebody, had opened this and flicked it and put a nice crease in there. And you can see it is a little bit of a tear and it kind of goes through there. So that's going to get hit as a little bit of edge wear or edge creasing. We do have a very, very slight color breaking crease up at the top corner there. Not bad. That's, maybe a half centimeter or, 5 millimeters. So that's very, very small. There is a genuine tear right there and a little bit of a color break crease, again, where somebody probably pushed this into a bag and a board. Going down the spine here, I want to draw your attention to this misplaced staple on the top, because I'm going to come back to that here in a second. We have a very faint crease in here that I do think breaks color across the black, but it's pretty faint. You can see it barely right there. We have a spine tick, and a little bit lighter spine tick, and a couple more spine ticks. And then this bottom staple. Now you can see that there's a little bit of tearing around that staple on the top. I'm pretty sure that was, from whomever opened this and read it, but that's a very, very minor staple tear. Again, a spine tick, and then we have a little bit of corner blunting or corner creasing there to deal with. In the center of the book, we've got a couple of light bends to try to worry about. There's some there. There's some there. There is a little bit of a crease right here through right above Wolverine's arm, you can see. So that will not press out because that has broken gloss and it looks like it is a little bit of creased paper. But maybe we can lighten that on up. And there's a couple of finger bends here right in the H of the Hulk. Right there, you can see it, and a little bit more right there. So those lighter bends are pressable. And if we flip this on over, we have a little bit of distortion or scratching around the spine. I'm not really sure what that is. It's not spine stress lines. It doesn't look like normal creasing. We'll try to get that and fix it on out. We've got a little bit of a spine stress line there, spine stress line there. Top corner looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit of a binding tear. If you hold it on its side, you can see that little itty bitty chip out. That's the binding tear from when the book was originally cut. Thankfully, that corner wear that's evident on the front cover doesn't really come to the back cover, so that's pretty solid. We have a little bit of schmutz here to dry clean off, but nothing too bad. The top corner over here might have a little bit of crease to match that one on the front, but nothing too crazy. All right, now you might see this spot here and think, oh goodness, somebody wrote on this or something else. This, I think, is going to be completely overlooked by CGC, or at least I would hope so, because that to me looks like the better part of a star stamp. And for those of you that know, the star stamp is usually affiliated with military bases, specifically distribution to overseas military bases. And some collectors really seek comics that have that star stamp. And so I would make zero attempt to remove this. And I believe this will hopefully get viewed as a date stamp or a distribution stamp from CGC, and it should not negatively affect the grade. And if you look at it, it actually has what I think you can see is about four prongs of the star starting. Now, the association of that stamp with a Mark Jewelers book is really good confirmation. So, people might try to marry a Mark Jewelers insert, or they might try to take a Mark Jewelers insert from another book and put it into a book where it wasn't originally there to try to get maximum value for, let's say, a key comic, either distributed the same month in a different title or in an adjacent month from the same title. And so the idea of marrying those inserts is out there, but I think in this case it's genuine. And I think that star stamp really helps substantiate it. So the Mark Jewelers are also affiliated with military bases and military distribution. And then we have the star stamp on the back there. So we have both the insert and evidence on the comic. And also, if you're thinking about having things married, you have to think about how those staples are. And so one of the biggest evidences that something was married is it has multiple staple holes. But if we zoom in there, we can see that there's no second set of staple holes, and the same is true on the bottom. And what's even more important, I mentioned the odd placement of that staple on the front cover when we were scanning that. And so you can see it goes through the front cover kind of vertically down. Well, it intercepts the Mark Jeweler insert there too. So it's not on the fold on the center of that V, it's actually splayed off. And so it would be incredibly almost impossible to have something that has that stapled placement and somehow find a copy with that star stamp. And so this, I'm pretty sure, is legit. It is an honest to goodness Mark Jeweler's copy of the Incredible Hulk number 181. So with that dissected, you know, we can start thinking about how we're going to approach this book. And to me, the colors actually look better than some books I've treated or blasted. And so I don't think that this one needs any stain removal or whitening. I think this thing just needs a dry clean and a good loving press. And I think that'll be about it. I mean, this is, you know, it's not perfectly white, especially if you zoom in here, you can see that it's a little bit cream. And if I hold that over, you know, something like my iPod case here, you can definitely see that the, you know, bright white of that iPod plastic is brighter than the comic book, but it's definitely not gross by any means. And these pages are quite bright and quite vibrant for a book of this era. Oh, and I did check, this does have the all-important Marvel value stamp. So if we flip here very carefully, should be able to see, oops, passed it on by. I'll go back here. On the next page over, right there. So we do have the Marvel value stamp. So these might be off-white to white pages, but very good condition. And again, I mean, you can even see here like that swish by the Hulk looks a lot brighter, I would say, than the middle of the book, and that's pretty standard. So all in all, I think this book is just going to get a dry clean and a press, and I don't see a reason to do anything else on it. I don't see any foxing. I don't see any stains. I think that this one's going to come in at about an 8, with the limiting defects being these creases here and there, a combination on the spine, the corner blunting, and there might be a little bit of creasing starting right here. You can kind of see going through the corner. So this edge, if I hold it very loosely, you can see it's fanning out, and so it needs a little bit of a press, and it has a little bit of a corner crease right there. But thankfully, while this does break color for the first, you know, little bit there, it does not bisect the whole corner. If it bisected the whole corner, you'd be looking at about a 6.5, and thankfully, if you look right here in the Hulk's leg, there's nothing color breaking in there. There's nothing that's gloss breaking. And so very good, very nice copy of this book. I think it'll come in at the 8.0 range, or at least that's my guess for it. And so very awesome, genuinely incredible copy. All right, so I'm gonna go pop some pictures of this so I can post some before and afters, and then we'll get dry cleaning this copy. All right, here we are back with our Incredible Hulk number 181. And so we're gonna go ahead and get this in a light dry clean here. I'm going to use my click eraser, and I'm just going to gently roll right down here. And this book, overall, for its age, actually looks fantastic from the dry cleaning. May or may not have already been done, but I don't really see a reason to go overboard with anything here. Nothing too crazy right along there. A little bit up on Wolverine's claws, get the swish here, but I'm not seeing anything really crazy coming off, and I'm not seeing a lot of reason to push it in any way. It actually looks really sharp overall. All right, so when we get to pressing this book, we're going to press it at 155 for 15 minutes after some hydration. With those staples being on the front of the book, I'm going to use my normal stack, which is a backer board at centerfold, and I'm going to use a 65-pound sheet of cardstock under the front cover and the back cover, but I'm going to make sure on the front cover that I keep that cardstock back from the staple, because what you don't want to do is, you know, push it under the staple and then have pressure come on and, you know, push the cover, have too much buffer under the cover and then have the staple sink underneath it and you'll detach it. So it's really important to have a thinner buffer, especially with the staples on the front or the bottom, but I've found that my 65-pound cardstock works pretty good overall for that, and it's usually, you know, this kind of staple placement is not uncommon for Silver Age books, and I've pressed, you know, dozens, if not more, Silver Age books with that staple placement, and haven't popped one yet, so hopefully this won't be a first occurrence. And go just gently down the spine here with the eraser. I think whatever this is going to need to get ironed out because it's got kind of a weird wrinkling, and I've not seen that pattern frequently. So there. But there's a lot of not a lot going on here. There's a little bit of dinge, maybe the starts of incredibly fine foxing, incredibly fine tanning over here on this corner, but nothing that I would be concerned about, especially not from a book that's, you know, 40 years old-ish. Maybe older. Was it 1974? So yeah, 45 years old-ish. All right, and around the corner there, I'm going to grab my magic eraser sheet because I really don't like taking the eraser towards the corner. I'm just going to give that a few gentle strokes off the edge and just see if we can lift some of that surface crud that was on there. Nothing too crazy though. This book is already really fine shape. So I might have a little bit of light foxing, really light foxing, but you can get a 9.0 book on light foxing, and unfortunately I think the creases are going to prevent us from going above that threshold anyway. So again, no real reward and just risk. So it makes the decision making, I think, quite easy. Really nice copy. Not a reason to go too crazy. You can see that the cover here, it does have a little bit of a slant to it, and I think that's from the mist staple, and I think that's part of the reason why the cover is lifting up down here. And so after a press, this thing might not ever lay perfectly flat. So I mean, you can imagine taking a sheet of paper and having it, you know, stapled while it's not quite perfectly flat. Like if the paper is perfectly flat and you staple it, you should be able to get it to lay perfectly flat at some point in the future. But if it's bent and it's stapled, then whatever that distortion is going to be there even if you try to flatten it out. So, yep, and I know some people might jump to try to remove that Sharpie or that stamp from back there, but on a book like this, that military star, I think, is going to really increase the appeal of the book overall, and I'm going to try my best not even to touch it with the eraser, because I think it adds both to the history of the book, also the uniqueness, and I think overall the appeal as well, especially to the collectors who understand what the history of that stamp means, which is pretty awesome. All right, so that's a wrap. This thing didn't need a whole lot at all. You know, it's a very incredible copy. I'm going to wipe all this off here off camera. You don't need to watch me do that. But again, this book's just going to get a nice press here at 165 degrees. Or sorry, 155 backer board, 65-pound cardstock, 65-pound cardstock, and that's going to be that. So let's keep our fingers crossed what this looks like coming out of the press. All right, everybody, welcome back here. This is going to be our final look at this incredible copy of the Incredible Hulk number 181. And this time I mean it, because this one happens to have a Mark Jewelers insert in there. And you can see that little strip of blue right across the lip there. This one was just fantastic, a true treat to be able to work on. Overall, it turned up really nice. There is a little bit of cover lift in this bottom corner where it stands up just a little bit off the table. It's about a ½ centimeter, so it's not much, but it is real. And I think it's just because these staples, again, are misaligned and miscentered. So this one is kind of on the middle of the page there, and then this one is off on the side there. And we noted how both of them had very slight small staple tears originally, and so I think that combination just shifts it. You can kind of think of what it would look like if you took a flat sheet of paper and instead of stapling it flat, shifted it and rolled it around and gave it a little bit of a bend and then stapled it. You know, you might have some pieces that are stick up and it's basically impossible to get flat. So I think that's basically the situation with this one. No need to push it. We're just going to send it to CGC. I'm aiming for an 8.85 grade on this one. I think it'll come in an 8.5. I'm optimistic 8.5 here with that corner crease and then this little bit up here, and we had a little bit of that light wrinkling on the back, but I think it'll be an 8.5 with these two being the major damage and a little bit of spine wear. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, send it to CGC, and touch base when the verdict is back. All right, true believers, the jury is back with this incredible copy of the Incredible Hulk number 181, which contained the Mark Jewelers insert. So we have an MJ copy here to reveal, and CGC felt that this one was a 8.0 copy. 8.0 white pages. I got the scans here directly, and what I really like about them is you can clearly see that star stamp is still on the back there. So this is undoubtedly our copy, and you can see right there it says Mark Jewelers insert right underneath the Marvel comics. And so this one came back a blue label 8.0, and that was pretty awesome because it didn't really need a whole lot of work. You know, it had some very light maybe yellowing, but nothing that I think was dramatic or really needed a whole lot of effort. So with a little bit of dry clean and a press, this one I think turned out as good as we could hope, and I was very pleased to see a CGC grade that was similar or in line with roughly what I was expecting, and so that made me feel pretty good about our grades in our evaluation. So hopefully you found this one helpful. Please go ahead and leave a like, a thumbs up for the video. Those thumbs up really help, and also feel free to subscribe to the channel. So click that button down below, and without further ado, Excelsior.